Switzerland, land of breathtaking scenery, precision timepieces and peaceful neutrality. A nation known for its tranquility and respect for order. As the sun dips below the majestic Alps, casting long shadows across the valleys, a sense of calm descends upon the land. In the heart of this idyllic country, nestled among rolling hills and sparkling lakes, lies a small town. Life here moves at a slower pace, governed by the rhythms of nature and the traditions of generations past. Nightfall brings a hush to the cobblestone streets as residents retreat to the comfort of their homes. Behind one such window, however, a different story unfolds, a story of fear, torment, and an invisible threat that shatters the peace of the night. This is not a tale of mythical creatures or supernatural occurrences, but a chilling account of alleged assaults, as real as the walls that confine its victims. This is where our investigation begins, in the very heart of tranquility, where a sinister undercurrent disrupts the harmony. This is a story about the sanctity of one's home being violated, about the invisible lines crossed, and the desperate search for answers in the face of an unknown enemy. At first it started subtly. A faint humming sound in the dead of night, dismissed as an overactive appliance or a trick of the mind. Then the insomnia began, nights of fitful sleep, plagued by an unsettling feeling of unease. As days turned into weeks, the disturbances grew bolder, more insistent. Frantic searches online yielded unsettling results. Forums filled with similar accounts, whispers of microwave attacks and noise terrorism. Could this be what they were experiencing? The thought seemed preposterous, ripped from the pages of a science fiction novel. Yet the symptoms were undeniable. The persistent headaches, the burning sensations on their skin, the ringing in their ears, all pointing towards an inexplicable external source. Fear began to take root, a creeping dread that tightened its grip with each passing night. The victims, ordinary people leading ordinary lives, found themselves caught in a waking nightmare. They were trapped in their own homes, tormented by an unseen force they couldn't understand, let alone escape.
My life used to be so full of ambition and optimism. Now I can barely sleep. The relentless humming has invaded my apartment.
Meet Sarah, a young professional. Now, dark circles under her eyes tell a different story.
I used to find solace in the quiet routine of my days. Now the constant buzzing is unbearable.
Then there's Peter, a retired teacher. The constant buzzing has turned his sanctuary into a prison of sound. These are just a few faces, a small sampling of the countless lives affected by this insidious form of torment. The accusation is as chilling as it is unbelievable. Deliberate and targeted attacks using microwave radiation and orchestrated noise pollution. A weaponization of technology invisible to the naked eye, yet capable of inflicting real and lasting harm. Victims report a range of debilitating symptoms, from insomnia and anxiety to nausea, heart palpitations, and even burns on their skin. Could these be the result of prolonged exposure to electromagnetic radiation, carefully calibrated to inflict maximum discomfort and distress? While the very notion might seem like something out of a spy thriller, the science behind electromagnetic energy and its potential effects on the human body is well documented. Is it so far-fetched to believe that this technology could be used for nefarious purposes? As we delve deeper into this unsettling world, we will examine the evidence, consult with experts, and confront the authorities tasked with protecting citizens from such threats. As Section 5, our investigation begins. A search for truth and justice. Our journey takes us from the idyllic Swiss countryside to the sterile laboratories of scientists and the imposing halls of government. We will speak to the victims, hear their stories, and analyze the evidence they have painstakingly gathered. We will consult with experts in acoustics, electromagnetic radiation, and psychology, seeking to understand the science behind the alleged attacks and their potential impact on human health. We will also examine similar cases from around the world, exploring the shadowy realm of electronic harassment and its devastating consequences. Our investigation will be thorough, our approach objective. We are not here to sensationalize or to judge, but to seek the truth, however uncomfortable it may be. This is a search for answers, a quest for justice for those who claim to be living in the shadows of a silent war. We invite you to join us on this journey, to keep an open mind and to question everything as we navigate the murky waters of alleged microwave attacks and noise terrorism in the heart of Switzerland. Section 1, the Geneva apartment, a haven turned hostile. Our investigation begins in Geneva, a city renowned for its international diplomacy and cosmopolitan atmosphere. Overlooking Lake Geneva, a modern apartment building stands tall, its sleek facade reflecting the azure sky. This architectural marvel, home to a diverse community, is where our story unfolds. Apartment 12B, a spacious three-bedroom unit, was once a sanctuary for its occupants. Large windows offered breathtaking views, bathing the interior in natural light, but within these walls an insidious threat has taken root. The air, once filled with the aroma of coffee, now carries a faint metallic tang. Ordinary household objects take on a sinister aspect, suspected of harboring hidden devices. As the sun sets, a palpable tension descends upon apartment 12B. The occupants now dread the coming of night, knowing that with the darkness comes the torment. Sarah, a successful lawyer in her late 20s, had always been drawn to Geneva's vibrancy. But recently her life began to unravel. Plagued by a relentless hum, sleep became elusive, replaced by anxiety and dread. Desperate, she consulted doctors and engineers, but no one could help. The lack of understanding deepened her isolation and fear.
Down the hallway, in apartment 12D, lives Peter, a retired teacher who had always found solace in the quiet solitude of his home. An avid reader and amateur historian, Peter cherished his evenings spent immersed in books and classical music. But now, silence itself had become a weapon, replaced by an unbearable cacophony that seemed to target him directly.
It started with a high-pitched ringing in my ears, Peter recounts, his voice trembling slightly. Then came the clicking sounds, like someone was tapping on my walls, followed by bursts of static noise, as if a radio was constantly switching frequencies. The noise was relentless, unpredictable, designed to disorient and dishearten.
The constant barrage of sound has left Peter with debilitating migraines, his once sharp mind clouded by pain and confusion. He complains of insomnia, heart palpitations, and a constant feeling of nausea. The once vibrant pensioner is now a shadow of his former self, trapped in a prison of sound, his sanctuary turned into a torture chamber.
Like Sarah, Peter has sought help from medical professionals and building management, but to no avail. His concerns are met with skepticism, his symptoms dismissed as age-related hearing loss or stress. The lack of understanding, the feeling of being gaslighted by those he trusted, has left him deeply disillusioned and afraid. As the weeks turn into months, the strange occurrences in apartment 12B and 12D begin to attract attention. Whispers circulate among the building's residents, fueled by late-night encounters in the elevator, hushed conversations in the laundry room, and the occasional glimpse of fear in a neighbor's eyes. Some residents dismiss the rumors as paranoia, the product of overactive imaginations. Others, however, recall strange incidents of their own. Flickering lights, intermittent buzzing sounds, a feeling of being watched through their own windows. The line between reality and delusion begins to blur as fear and suspicion cast a long shadow over the once peaceful community. The building's management, initially dismissive of the complaints, now finds itself caught in the crossfire. Security cameras are reviewed, maintenance logs scrutinized, but no conclusive evidence is found. The source of the disturbances remains elusive, the perpetrator, if there is one, a phantom operating in the shadows. As the tension mounts, the residents of apartment 12B and 12D find themselves increasingly isolated, their pleas for help met with skepticism and disbelief. They are united in their suffering, bound by a shared experience that seems both inexplicable and terrifyingly real. The relentless torment begins to take a visible toll on both Sarah and Peter. Their once vibrant faces now bear the marks of chronic sleep deprivation, their eyes shadowed with fatigue and fear. Sarah complains of persistent headaches, a constant pressure behind her eyes that no amount of painkillers can alleviate. Her hands tremble slightly, betraying her inner turmoil. Peter's once robust health has deteriorated rapidly. His once steady hands now shake uncontrollably, making even the simplest tasks, like buttoning a shirt or holding a cup of tea, a challenge. He complains of dizziness, nausea, and a constant ringing in his ears that makes it difficult to concentrate. Both Sarah and Peter have undergone a battery of medical tests, but the results are inconclusive. Blood work reveals elevated levels of stress hormones consistent with prolonged exposure to extreme stress. Brain scans show abnormal brainwave patterns, suggesting disrupted sleep and potential neurological disturbances. Yet doctors are unable to pinpoint a definitive cause for their debilitating symptoms. The lack of a medical explanation for their suffering only adds to their frustration and fear. They're trapped in a medical and social limbo, their experiences dismissed as psychosomatic, their pleas for help falling on deaf ears. Desperate for relief, Sarah and Peter have repeatedly contacted the building management, pleading for their intervention. They have presented their evidence, audio recordings of the strange noises, detailed accounts of their symptoms, even testimonials from other residents who have experienced similar disturbances. The building manager, however, remains unconvinced. He cites the lack of concrete evidence, the absence of any obvious source for the alleged attacks. He suggests that Sarah and Peter might be overly sensitive to normal city noises or perhaps suffering from stress-related illnesses. Undeterred, Sarah and Peter have also reached out to local authorities, filing complaints with the police and contacting their elected officials. But their efforts have been met with a similar wall of indifference and disbelief. The police, burdened with more conventional crimes, seem reluctant to investigate what they perceive as a domestic dispute or a case of mass hysteria. The elected officials, while sympathetic, claim their hands are tied. Without concrete evidence, without a clear perpetrator, there is little they can do. Sarah and Peter find themselves trapped in a bureaucratic labyrinth, their pleas for help bouncing from one indifferent official to another. Determined to find answers, Sarah and Peter contact Dr. David Meyer, a renowned psychiatrist specializing in trauma and anxiety disorders. Dr. Meyer, known for his compassionate approach and his willingness to explore unconventional explanations, agrees to meet with them. Over the course of several sessions, Sarah and Peter recount their experiences in detail, describing the strange noises, the debilitating symptoms, and the pervasive sense of fear that has come to dominate their lives. Dr. Meyer listens intently, taking notes, his keen eyes observing their every move, their every inflection. Dr. Meyer is struck by the consistency and specificity of their accounts, the clear correlation between the alleged attacks and the onset of their symptoms. He is particularly interested in the audio recordings they have captured, noting the unusual frequencies and patterns of the sounds.
While I cannot offer a definitive diagnosis without further investigation, the symptoms described by Sarah and Peter are consistent with those reported by individuals who believe they are being targeted with directed energy weapons or other forms of electronic harassment.
As Sarah and Peter delve deeper into their investigation, a chilling pattern begins to emerge. Central to Sarah and Peter's case are the hours of audio recordings they have meticulously collected. To make sense of the disturbing sounds captured in their recordings, Sarah and Peter have enlisted the help of an independent sound engineer. One of the most persistent and unsettling sounds captured in the recordings is a low-frequency hum. Interspersed with the low-frequency hum are bursts of sharp, metallic clicks, like fingers tapping on the edges of their sanity. Perhaps the most disturbing of all the sounds captured in Sarah and Peter's recordings are the bursts of static noise. Accompanying the disturbing audio phenomena are a series of anomalous electromagnetic frequency readings. While the human ear can typically detect sounds within a frequency range of 20 Hz to 20,000 Hz, there are sounds that exist beyond this range. The idea of using sound as a weapon is not new. The attacks, far from random, reveal a chilling pattern when meticulously charted across a timeline. The earliest entries in Sarah's journal, penned with a mixture of curiosity and mild annoyance, documented the initial stirrings of this ordeal. As Sarah and Peter meticulously documented each incident, a chilling pattern emerged. Section 4, Sleep Deprivation, turning rest into a battleground. Of all the tactics employed by their unseen tormentors, sleep deprivation proved to be the most insidious. Sleep, that essential balm for the weary soul, that sanctuary from the day's stresses, became a battleground, a nightly struggle against forces determined to rob them of rest and sanity. The low-frequency hum, in particular, proved to be a potent sleep saboteur. It wormed its way into their subconscious, a persistent throb that prevented their minds from fully disengaging, their bodies from finding true rest. They tossed and turned, sheets twisted around their limbs, desperate for a moment of respite that never came. The clicking sounds too played their part in this nocturnal assault, their irregularity more effective than any alarm clock at jolting Sarah and Peter awake just as they drifted off. They lay there, hearts pounding, listening intently for the next click, the next sonic intrusion that shattered the fragile peace. The cumulative effect of this relentless sleep deprivation was devastating. Sarah, once sharp and focused, found herself struggling to concentrate at work, her mind sluggish, her reactions slow. Peter, normally energetic and engaged, retreated into himself, his once bright eyes now dull with fatigue. Section 5, Amplified Agony, Weekends of Intensified Torment. If the weekdays were a relentless grind of low-level torment, the weekends brought a terrifying escalation of the attacks. It was as if their tormentors, relishing in their victims' anticipation of rest and respite, deliberately intensified their efforts to shatter any semblance of peace. While the city bustled with weekend activity, Sarah and Peter found themselves trapped within the confines of their apartments, dreading the inevitable onslaught. The hum grew louder, a physical pressure that seemed to constrict their chests, making it difficult to breathe. The clicks became more frequent, sharper, like tiny daggers stabbing at their eardrums. The static noise too reached new levels of intensity, a chaotic symphony of crackles and pops that seemed to tear at the edges of their sanity. It was as if the perpetrators, no longer content with mere disruption, were determined to break them, to shatter their spirits along with their eardrums. The isolation of these weekend attacks was almost unbearable. While others enjoyed the simple pleasures of leisure and social connection, Sarah and Peter found themselves trapped in a private hell, their cries for help drowned out by the cacophony of their torment. Section 6. Gaslighting and doubt-sowing seeds of uncertainty. As the attacks continued unabated, a new and insidious element was introduced: gaslighting, subtle manipulations of their environment designed to sow seeds of doubt, to make them question their own sanity, their own grip on reality. Lights would flicker erratically, plunging their apartments into momentary darkness. Appliances would malfunction, turning on and off seemingly at random. Doors would creak open as if pushed by an unseen hand. These incidents, taken individually, could be dismissed as coincidence, but their increasing frequency and their timing, always coinciding with moments of vulnerability, suggested a more sinister explanation. The goal of this gaslighting was clear: to undermine Sarah and Peter's confidence, to make them doubt their own perceptions, their own sanity. If they couldn't trust their own senses, if they couldn't distinguish between reality and delusion, then who would believe them? Who would take their claims seriously? This psychological manipulation was perhaps the most insidious aspect of their ordeal. It chipped away at their resolve, their sense of self, leaving them feeling isolated, vulnerable, and utterly alone. Section 7. Reaching the breaking point. A cry for help ignored. Driven to the brink by the relentless attacks and the increasingly debilitating effects on their health, Sarah and Peter made a desperate plea for help. They contacted their building manager, presenting him with their meticulously documented evidence: the audio recordings, the EMF readings, the timestamps that correlated with their torment. Their pleas, however, were met with indifference and disbelief. The building manager, more concerned with maintaining the property's reputation than the well-being of its tenants, dismissed their claims as the product of overactive imaginations, or worse, an attempt to break their lease without penalty. Undeterred, they reached out to the authorities, filing a police report detailing the harassment, the psychological torture, the deliberate attempts to undermine their health and sanity, but their hopes for justice were quickly dashed. The police, faced with a crime unlike any they had encountered before, with no witnesses, no forensic evidence, no clear perpetrator, were ill-equipped to help. They were bounced from one agency to another, their case falling through the cracks of a system designed for more conventional crimes, leaving them feeling utterly alone, their cries for help echoing unheard in a system ill-equipped to comprehend the invisible war being waged against them. Section 8. The price of silence, the human cost of invisible warfare. The toll this invisible war took on Sarah and Peter was evident. Their once vibrant faces were now etched with worry and exhaustion. The dark circles under their eyes, a testament to countless sleepless nights, spoke volumes about the constant state of hypervigilance in which they lived. Their social lives dwindled to almost nothing. The constant fear of attacks, the unpredictable nature of their torment made it impossible to relax, to enjoy the company of others. They became prisoners in their own homes, their world shrinking to the size of their apartments, their lives defined by the four walls that should have been their sanctuary. Sarah, once a rising star in her law firm, found her career stalling, her once sharp mind clouded by fatigue and anxiety. Peter, who had always found solace in his volunteer work, withdrew from his community, his days now consumed by the fear that followed him like a shadow. The invisible war being waged against them had taken so much: their health, their peace of mind, their sense of self. But it had also ignited within them a fierce determination to fight back, to expose their tormentors, to ensure that no one else would have to endure the living hell they were experiencing. Section 8. The price of silence, the human cost of invisible warfare. The toll this invisible war took on Sarah and Peter was evident. Their once vibrant faces were now etched with worry and exhaustion. The dark circles under their eyes, a testament to countless sleepless nights. Their social lives dwindled to almost nothing. The constant fear of attacks made it impossible to relax. They became prisoners in their own homes. Sarah's career stalled, her mind clouded by fatigue. Peter withdrew from his community, consumed by fear. The invisible war took their health, peace of mind, and sense of self, but it also ignited a fierce determination to fight back. Section 1. The science of microwave attacks, separating fact from fiction. The very notion of microwave attacks often elicits skepticism, conjuring images of science fiction villains and far-fetched conspiracy theories. However, the science behind electromagnetic radiation and its potential effects on the human body is well documented, raising serious questions about the plausibility of such attacks. Microwaves are a form of electromagnetic radiation similar to radio waves, visible light, and X-rays, but occupying a specific frequency range within the electromagnetic spectrum. While commonly associated with heating food in microwave ovens, microwaves have a wide range of applications, including telecommunications, radar, and even medical imaging. Exposure to high levels of microwave radiation can indeed have adverse effects on human health. This is why microwave ovens are designed with safety features, such as metal shielding and interlocks to prevent radiation leaks. However, the levels of microwave radiation required to cause significant harm are far greater than those encountered in everyday life. The question at the heart of Sarah and Peter's case is whether it is possible to deliberately and covertly direct microwave radiation at individuals, causing them harm without leaving any trace. To answer this question, we must delve deeper into the world of directed energy weapons and the potential for their misuse. Section 2. The electromagnetic spectrum: invisible threats, real dangers. To understand the potential threat posed by microwave attacks, it's crucial to grasp the concept of the electromagnetic spectrum. This spectrum encompasses a vast range of electromagnetic radiation, categorized by frequency and wavelength. At one end of the spectrum lie low-frequency radio waves, used for broadcasting and communication. As we move along the spectrum, frequencies increase and wavelengths decrease, encompassing visible light, ultraviolet radiation, X-rays, and finally, high-frequency gamma rays. Each type of electromagnetic radiation interacts with matter in unique ways, posing different levels of risk to human health. While visible light is essential for vision, prolonged exposure to ultraviolet radiation can cause sunburn and increase the risk of skin cancer. X-rays, with their ability to penetrate tissues, are invaluable for medical imaging but can also damage cells and DNA. The electromagnetic spectrum is a powerful force of nature, capable of both sustaining life and posing significant risks. Understanding its properties and the potential dangers associated with different types of electromagnetic radiation is essential for comprehending the complexities of microwave attacks and their potential impact on human health. As technology advances and our understanding of the electromagnetic spectrum deepens, it is crucial to remain vigilant about the potential for misuse and to develop safeguards to protect ourselves from invisible threats. Section 3. Directed energy weapons. A history of military development. The concept of harnessing energy and directing it towards a target is not new. From Archimedes' legendary heat ray, said to have set Roman ships ablaze during the siege of Syracuse, to the development of gunpowder and cannons, humans have long sought ways to project force over a distance. In the 20th century, the invention of the laser marked a significant leap forward in directed energy technology. Lasers, which emit highly focused beams of light, have found applications in various fields, including telecommunications, medicine, and of course, military technology. Modern militaries around the world are actively developing and deploying a new generation of directed energy weapons, including high-energy lasers, high-powered microwaves, and particle beams. These weapons offer the potential for pinpoint accuracy, speed of light engagement, and reduced collateral damage compared to conventional explosives. The development of directed energy weapons raises ethical and practical concerns. The potential for these weapons to be used for extrajudicial killings, torture, and suppression of dissent is a serious concern. Additionally, the long-term effects of these weapons on human health and the environment are not yet fully understood, necessitating careful consideration and stringent regulations. Section 4. Non-lethal warfare, the potential for abuse. In recent decades, there has been a growing emphasis on developing and deploying so-called non-lethal weapons for law enforcement and military operations. These weapons, intended to incapacitate or deter individuals without causing death or permanent injury, include tasers, rubber bullets, tear gas, and acoustic devices. While proponents argue that non-lethal weapons offer a more humane alternative to traditional firearms, their use is not without controversy. Critics point to the potential for abuse, the risk of unintended injuries, and the psychological trauma that can result from exposure to these weapons. The line between non-lethal and lethal can be blurry, as the effects of these weapons can vary depending on factors such as proximity, duration of exposure, and underlying health conditions. Moreover, the use of non-lethal weapons can escalate situations, leading to a more violent response from both law enforcement and protesters. The development and deployment of non-lethal weapons, including directed energy devices, require careful consideration of ethical implications, potential for abuse, and long-term consequences for individuals and society. Transparency, accountability, and stringent regulations are essential to ensure these weapons are used responsibly and ethically.
Check 1, check 2, check.
Section 5. The human body as an antenna vulnerability to EMF radiation. The human body is, in essence, a complex electrical system. Our nervous system relies on electrical impulses to transmit signals between the brain and the rest of the body. Our hearts beat rhythmically thanks to electrical signals generated by the heart's natural pacemaker. Even our thoughts and emotions are accompanied by electrical activity in the brain. This inherent electrical nature makes us vulnerable to electromagnetic radiation, including microwaves. Just as an antenna can receive and transmit radio waves, our bodies can interact with electromagnetic fields. The effects of this interaction depend on the frequency, intensity, and duration of exposure. Low-frequency electromagnetic fields, such as those emitted by power lines and household appliances, are generally considered safe at levels encountered in everyday life. However, higher-frequency radiation, such as microwaves, can penetrate deeper into tissues, potentially causing thermal and non-thermal effects. While the long-term health effects of chronic exposure to low levels of microwave radiation are still being debated, it is crucial to remain aware of the potential risks and to take steps to minimize unnecessary exposure. Beyond the realm of physical harm, sound can also be wielded as a powerful tool of psychological warfare. The human mind is exquisitely sensitive to auditory stimuli, and the deliberate manipulation of sound can have profound effects on our emotions, thoughts, and behavior. Music, for example, has long been recognized for its ability to evoke a wide range of emotions, from joy and tranquility to sadness and anger. Certain sounds, such as the gentle patter of rain or the crackling of a fire, can induce feelings of relaxation and well-being. Conversely, jarring noises, such as sirens or screams, trigger our fight or flight response, flooding our bodies with adrenaline and preparing us for danger. The deliberate use of sound to disorient, manipulate, or inflict psychological distress is a chilling reality. From the use of loud music and sleep deprivation as interrogation techniques to the deployment of sonic weapons for crowd control, the power of sound to influence the human mind should not be underestimated. As our world becomes increasingly noisy and technology provides ever more sophisticated means of manipulating sound, it is crucial to protect our acoustic environment and to be aware of the potential for sonic assault, both physical and psychological. As technology continues to advance at an unprecedented pace, the nature of warfare is evolving. The battlefields of the future may not be defined by trenches and tanks, but by invisible threats lurking within the digital realm and the electromagnetic spectrum. Cyber warfare, for example, has emerged as a significant threat, with nation-states and non-state actors alike engaging in espionage, sabotage, and disinformation campaigns. The Stuxnet virus, which targeted Iranian nuclear facilities, demonstrated the potential for cyber attacks to cause real-world damage. The increasing proliferation of connected devices, from smartphones and laptops to smart homes and self-driving cars, creates new vulnerabilities. Hackers and hostile actors could exploit these vulnerabilities to disrupt critical infrastructure, steal sensitive information, or even cause physical harm. The future of warfare will be characterized by a blurring of lines between the physical and digital worlds, between state and non-state actors, and between conventional and unconventional weapons. Addressing these evolving threats requires a comprehensive approach encompassing technological innovation, international cooperation, and a renewed focus on ethics and international law. The experiences of Sarah and Peter are not isolated incidents. Thousands claim to be victims of similar attacks, their lives hijacked by invisible assaults. Are we failing to recognize a silent epidemic of technological abuse? Online forums are filled with accounts of relentless humming, clicking sounds, and sudden bursts of static noise. Victims share a common experience of being targeted, tormented, and disbelieved. The scientific community remains divided on microwave attacks and electronic harassment. Proving deliberate and targeted attacks is extremely difficult. The lack of physical evidence and the challenge of replicating these attacks make it difficult to prove their existence. This lack of scientific consensus should not be interpreted as evidence that these attacks are not happening. The volume of anecdotal accounts and the consistency of reported experiences demand further investigation and greater awareness. Section 2. The burden of proof navigating a maze of disbelief. Victims of suspected microwave attacks face a significant challenge: the burden of proof. Without tangible evidence, their claims are often met with skepticism and disbelief. The invisible nature of these attacks makes them difficult to prove. Microwave attacks can be carried out remotely, leaving no trace. This makes it challenging to convince law enforcement to take these claims seriously. The medical community also struggles to provide adequate support. Symptoms overlap with anxiety, depression, and sleep disorders, leading to misdiagnoses. Victims may be dismissed as delusional, prescribed psychiatric medication, or told to reduce stress. This culture of disbelief profoundly impacts their lives. Victims must navigate a complex system, fighting for recognition and justice. Section 3, Seeking Justice, a plea to Swiss authorities. The Swiss government, with its tradition of neutrality and human rights, must address alleged microwave attacks and electronic harassment. Sarah and Peter's case highlights that even in safe countries, invisible threats can exist.
Swiss authorities must investigate these claims, support victims, and establish legal frameworks. A dedicated task force should investigate claims of microwave attacks and electronic harassment. This task force should gather evidence, interview witnesses, and prosecute those responsible. Victims need specialized support services, including medical and psychological care. Counseling, legal aid, and financial assistance should be available to help victims. Clear legislation is needed to define these acts as criminal offenses and provide legal recourse.
The Swiss government must protect its citizens from all forms of harm. By addressing electronic harassment, Switzerland can set a global precedent in upholding human rights. Section 4, International Implications, a global pattern of abuse. Allegations of invisible assaults are not confined to Switzerland. From the United States to Canada, the UK to Australia, and Asia to Africa, individuals report similar technological abuse. This raises questions about microwave technology's misuse. Are we witnessing a new form of transnational crime? Addressing this requires international cooperation. Governments and tech companies must collaborate. The fight against electronic harassment transcends borders. It demands a collective effort. Section 5, a call to action, breaking the silence, demanding protection. Technology can be a weapon of invisible abuse, inflicting pain, fear, and control. But individuals like Sarah and Peter fight back, demanding protection. This is a fight for all of us. We must remain vigilant, listen to victims, and demand accountability, support organizations, raise awareness, and advocate for change. Create a culture of belief and safety for victims. Together, we can ensure technology is a force for